This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles Show. My name is Daniel Smrokowski, and I am the founder of Special Chronicles, a Special Olympics Southern Rival International Global Messenger, and a SOSA ambassador at United Airlines in Chicago. This is episode 489 and season 3, part 6 of our Unified at Work series, which features conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. The Unified at Work series is sponsored by Bridge, one of United's business resource groups, one of United Airlines business resource groups that's connecting people of all abilities. Book your travel today at united.com or the award-winning United app. And specialchronicles.com is where you can go for links to follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And please join in the conversation there. And be sure to also to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, Special Chronicles, and the Unified at Work series on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It goes a long way if you can subscribe and share these podcast episodes. In addition to listening to the audio podcast, you can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube to watch the live stream video episodes and sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow. And we want to just specialchronicles.com/unified at work is where you can listen to more conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Alexis Medina from United's Houston hub. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Alexis to the Special Chronicles show in our Unified at Work series. Welcome, Alexis. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Daniel.
I know you and your fellow, so for those of you listening, if we say SOSA, that is Special Olympics Service Ambassador. That's our job titles at United Airlines. And you and your fellow SOSAs in Houston, I know have been excited to be on this podcast and in particular this Unified at Work series. As we this past March, we featured Denver's SOSA ambassadors, and I know we featured all 4 of us SOSAs in Chicago. So it's exciting to have you on the show. I'm sure some listeners probably know who you are, but let's begin and have you introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us what disability you were diagnosed with, your role in Special Olympics movement, what state you're from, and what job you have here at United Airlines.
All right. I'm Alexis Medina. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and my role in Special Olympics is I'm a Special Olympics athlete, and I'm also a Special Olympics ambassador for Houston, and I was originally born in El Paso.
Neat. And we're gonna get into and what disability were you diagnosed with?
ADHD.
All right. So we're going to hear much more of your involvement in Special Olympics and about your job, because by the time our listeners hear this, I know we're recording this at the beginning of August. People will hear this episode at the end of August 2022. Actually, I think by the time this episode drops, it'll be like the last Monday of August. So it's not quite a year that you've been employed at United Airlines, but for the most part, we'll just say, and I'm sure by the time United and everybody at Bridge promotes this episode, it will be probably in October. So it will be a year that you have been employed. And so we'll hear much more of your story in Special Olympics after this short break, when we let people know how you can support Special Chronicles and support this podcast. So our conversation with Alexis, calling in all the way from Houston, will be coming up after the break right here on SpecialChronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show and our Unified Work series is Alexis Medina. This is episode 489 of the Special Chronicles show. I know we're quickly approaching the 500th episode coming up here shortly. This is season 3, part 6 of our Unified Work series, which again features conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. So, Alexis, before we get into your job about United, let's talk a little bit about your involvement in Special Olympics, because just like you, I'm an athlete leader here in Illinois, and you're an athlete in Houston and in Texas. And I think by you sharing your story in Special Olympics is a good setup for is kind of a good setup of and will prepare you for talking about in the next segment about your job at United, because I'm sure what a lot of listeners will know by hearing our stories on this podcast is that the sports training and the athlete leadership training, the training that we have learned from being involved in Special Olympics has prepared us for our jobs at United Airlines as service ambassadors. So let's have you begin in this part of your story and share with us how you first got involved in Special Olympics in Texas.
I first got involved when I was in Special Olympics since I was in elementary school.
Neat. And can you share a little bit more? Did you start with just one sport, or can you tell us a little bit about about who introduced you to Special Olympics?
Well, I lived with my grandma, and my grandma had introduced me to Special Olympics in elementary school, and I started off with track and field. Did you start with the young athletes program, or like did you start when you were 8 years old, or did you start before, like with the young athletes program, or did you not start till after you were 8? Probably not till after I was 8.
After you 8, yeah. I started after I was 8 as well. So tell us a little bit more about some of your early years, the challenges, as well as some of the joys and accomplishments because of your disability.
The challenges I've had were it was kind of hard for me to make friends at that age. because I would just sit in the corner by myself, and that's how they knew.
Yeah. I can relate that too. I know growing up, it was hard to make friends, and what about some of the joys and accomplishments? I'm sure some of it might be being involved in Special Olympics, but what are some of the joys and accomplishments that you've had?
The joys that I've had were starting to make new friends when I started Special Olympics.
Good. Tell us, you mentioned in about some of the sports that you compete in Special Olympics. Can you tell us about a little bit more about some of the sports? I think you said track and field was one of them. Is there any other sports? And
track and field, bowling, basketball, swimming. I'm currently doing swimming. I started swimming last year, but last year I was kind of afraid to swim because I didn't know how to swim. But then they taught me how to swim.
Neat. Yeah. I also compete in swimming and basketball as well, and hopefully unified bocce soon. Yeah.
I've done bocce before.
You've done it, yeah. I've never done that, but I'm excited to get into that one. So from the sports, and what a lot of people know is involvement in Special Olympics starts with the sports training and competition, but then there's also athlete leadership and health programs and education programs. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the athlete leadership programs in Special Olympics with being an athlete ambassador. And
not really sure.
Did you take any classes or any training to give speeches or?
Not really.
No. Okay. Well, I'm sure a lot of the training that you have had with your sports has prepared you to help you in your leadership, and I'm sure now your job at United is being a leader to other Special Olympics athletes in Texas and around the country and around the globe as well. We're gonna. Is there anything else about Special Olympics that you want to share with our listeners of why you enjoy being involved in Special Olympics?
I enjoy being in Special Olympics because of meeting new friends all around the world.
Neat. Yeah.
Getting to compete for swimming soon.
Neat. Yeah.
Our competition's coming up this coming Saturday.
Awesome. Your state competition?
No, I think it's regionals.
Regionals. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. We had all
our area around there.
Yeah. All regional and state competitions for swimming happened a couple months ago. So we'll done with those sports. But we're gonna go ahead and take a quick sponsor break. When we come back, we'll hear about we'll transition now and hear from your involvement, Alexis. We'll hear a little bit more about your job at United as a SOSA ambassador. So our guest is Alexis Medina from United Airlines Houston Hub, and a conversation with Alexis will continue after the break right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Alexis Medina from United's Houston hub. This is season 3, part 6 of our Unified at Work series. And we hold the beginning part of your story in the first couple of segments, Alexis, where you talked about your involvement in Special Olympics, and I'm sure that, like it does for a lot of us athletes and athlete leaders, has prepared us for all jobs and inclusive employment. And what started about 3 years ago, which I don't know if listeners can believe it, it was 3 years ago when United Airlines and Special Olympics created, when United Airlines and Special Olympics International created this new inclusive employment program called the Special Olympics Service Ambassador Program, where they hired 4 of us athletes in Illinois to work at the airport, to work at United Airlines as service ambassadors. And then after we got hired, COVID and the pandemic happened. And so that kind of put some things on hold. But then 2 years later, United expanded to Denver and Houston. And so now you guys, so with those 4 of us in Chicago as service ambassadors, those 4 service ambassadors in Denver, and now those 6 service ambassadors in Houston. So it's exciting that United is really taking inclusion to new heights. Share with our listeners about how you first heard about this job as a Special Olympics Service Ambassador at United Airlines, and how you heard about this new inclusive employment at United.
I first heard about the Special Olympics Ambassador job by my mom had got an email from Special Olympics, and she applied.
She applied. Did she apply with you for like?
Yes.
So you guys both filled out the application. I know 3 years ago when one of our staff at Special Olympics told us about the job application and told us about the job. I know I and even my parents didn't know a lot about what this job was, because I've never, like I'm sure like you have never worked for an airline, you have never had this type of job before. Did you know a lot about what this job was? Or
not really.
Yeah. So and so then I'm gonna kind of change my show notes around a little bit, because it kind of flows a little bit better. But the 4 of us original service ambassadors in Chicago first met you and the other service ambassadors in Houston at a welcome event. There was a welcome event where you and the other 5. So 6 of you SOSAs in Houston met myself and the other OG, the other original service ambassadors from Chicago when we came down. I don't know if we remember that when we came down to Houston to meet you all at a welcome event. But tell us, what was it like to meet us and hear about our experiences with this inclusive employment?
It was an honor to meet you guys, and I had pretty fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So tell us, after you filled out the application and after you applied, what was the next step in the process? Did you start your training for your job as a service ambassador, or what was the next step after you applied for the job? Ooh, I think the video might be a little. Are you still there, Alexis?
Yes.
Okay. So I know if you heard that question, but tell us what was the next step after you applied for the job. Was the training the next part, or what was the next part after you applied? Then I don't know if the welcome event where you met us original service ambassadors from Chicago when we came down to meet you guys. I don't know if that was soon after you had applied for the job when you had the welcome event, but what happened after you applied for this job?
After I applied for this job, we went through 2 interview processes. The first interview process was with the Special Olympics with AJ and Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next step was the interview with United with Mordelis and Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
And
so then after
So after that we had the job shadowing, and then after that we started our training.
Neat. So you first got the job description, and then you had the interviews with the staff from Special Olympics, and then the United staff, and then you had the job shadow day. Yeah. So that's a little bit. It's a little different than how we did it in Illinois, but it's neat. So then you got to kind of shadow some of the customer service agents, right? So not totally what our job is as a service ambassador, but you got to kind of see what the airport operations was like. So then after the job shadow was the welcome event where you met us OG original service ambassadors. Was that next, or?
Yes, that was next.
Okay, and you guys got an opportunity to ask us questions, and we got to share a little bit about our experiences because at the time. So just for the kind of timeline for our listeners, we're recording this, and you guys are hearing this in August 2022. But this welcome event took place in October 2021, I believe. So so that took place. And then what took place after the welcome event? Did you have did you go through some training, or?
We after the welcome event, we started the on-the-job training and the online training on takeoff.
On takeoff, okay. And
with our mentors like Shauna Lee, Abby, Gracie.
So tell us about, and I know the mentors that we had in Chicago have been really supportive. I'm sure your mentors as well have been really supportive of all 6 of you. Tell us about that training experience. I know for some of us service advisors in Chicago, the online training on takeoff can be a little challenging, but with some support, we were able to still get it done. But tell us about some of the in-person training and what was some of all that training about. Tell us about how that training, what the training was like that you went through.
We had our mentors. When we first started on the job training, we went around there airport, showing us the different areas that we would be working at.
Mm-hmm. Neat. And what happened after the training? I guess I should start with how long did the training take place? Was it just and if you would ask me in how long all training was, this was about 3 years ago. So I think it was 3 or 4 months, but I forgot exactly. But for you, it's a little fresh in your mind since you're coming up on your 1 year work anniversary. But how long did the training take place? Was it a few months?
Yes, I would say it was a few months.
And what took place? What happened after the training? Did you start like working in the lobby at United's terminal in Houston, or what happened after?
We started working in the lobbies.
So those two, yeah, I forgot. In Chicago, we have one lobby in the terminal in United's Terminal 1 in Chicago, but you guys, and I've only been to the Houston airport, I think once, because like a week after we started our jobs, United had a plane poll that were like there was like over 600 employees for United all across the globe that was at Houston for their plane poll, but and so I was only I think we were only at the airport for like just a little bit of just a very small amount of time for maybe a couple hours, but I forgot. So you guys have 2 lobbies, right?
For now we have 2 lobbies because they're working on a new lobby for Terminal E. So and then once they have the new lobby for your Terminal E, it will just be just one lobby. No, there'll be 3 altogether. Oh, then there will be 3. Okay, so yes, because Terminal E is using C right now. So each of these, and they're also using D because E is in construction. Neat. So each of these lobbies, are they pretty big, or each of these? Right now, you have 2 lobbies. Are these kind of small lobbies for United? They're kind of big. They're kind of big. So do you? So one day that you come in for work, do you work in one lobby, and then the other day you work at the other lobby, or? It usually depends on what our schedules are. Mm-hmm. If I go in at 6 in the morning, from 6 to from 6 to 7, I worked in B lobby. And then at 8, I take my lunch. And then 8:30 to, by the time I get off, I work in the escalators in C. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I don't know if you guys are helping assistant at any of the gates as well, but now, just about 3 years later, pretty much all of us, so as ambassadors of Chicago, we're now working at the gates now and helping some of the agents at the gates. I don't know, are you guys helping out at any of the gates or not yet? We do go to gates, but we're doing this thing called a care cart, mm-hmm. where we push it around and we go to the podiums and see what they need. Like if they need highlighters, pens, we place them on the podiums in Terminal E and C. Neat. I'll have to. That's not something that we do in Chicago, but I will. If any of our managers or supervisors in Chicago is listening, Steve doesn't really work at the airport anymore, but if any of our supervisors, Anna or Mimi, or
listening to this podcast right now, I will have to let them know about this kill count because maybe that's something that we can help out with in Chicago. What a lot of people that might not know, because all jobs as Special Olympic Service ambassadors at United Airlines is still pretty new, even with you guys in Houston and then in Denver, and now 3 years coming up in just about 3 years of us in Chicago. It's still pretty new. But I think if we will, and I'm assuming you guys got the same job description that we did, but if we were to kind of sum up what our jobs are as a service ambassador, I think it would be, and I'll let you respond to this as well, but what I think, the way I would sum it up is we all assisting the customer, like we're like assistants for the customer service agents, and we'll assist in them in helping with giving directions and taking back. So like we'll like assistants to the customer service representatives at United Airlines at the airport. I don't know if you would agree, or how would you, if you were to kind of sum up your job at United.
I do agree on that, and also tagging the bags, giving directions to where they need to go, because like some passengers in Houston, since they have the United app now, they come ask me, do I need to go through security, or do I need to go to the kiosk and check my bag in? If they're checking their bags in, if not, I tell them that you can go through straight to the security if you're not checking in any bags, if they just have carry-ons.
Yeah. And do you help them out at the kiosk? I know as service ambassadors, there's not a lot that we can do, but do you?
In Houston, we're not allowed to touch the kiosk.
Okay. Well, and the one thing, like in Chicago, so we're not allowed to scan our white United ID badge. We're not allowed to do that. But one of the things that we're allowed to do is we're allowed to like help them kind of go through the prompts on the kiosk to kind of help them check in. But if the kiosk starts to flash red, or if it starts to flash where it asks you to scan your badge, then we just either put our hand up, or we get an agent to come over to help the customer. But so we are allowed to kind of, so I guess there's a little bit, and maybe it depends on the airport. I'm sure we could probably go on and keep talking about our jobs at United, but we'll kind of sum up this segment and kind of have you share what you enjoy most about your job as a service ambassador at United Airlines. What do you enjoy most about your job?
The most I enjoy about my job is tagging the bags, helping the passengers tag their bags, giving them directions, and whenever we're tagging the bags, we make sure they put them on the scale, make sure they're not over 50 pounds. If they are, and they have to pay an additional fee on top of the $35.
Yeah. Good. So
like after we tag their bags, we tell them to go to step number 2, bag drop.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that there's a lot more that we could say, and maybe we'll have to have you and the other youth ambassadors on again. It would be awesome to maybe do a live podcast in person. Maybe sometime I could fly down to Houston, because that's something that I don't think we mentioned to our listeners, but we have, and I'm sure you guys have as well, the same travel benefits. So you can fly on standby. I don't know did they walk you through all the travel benefits that we have?
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be awesome. So maybe we'll have to have you on again, but we're going to go ahead and take one final sponsor break. And when we come back, we will get to some final plugs and a final question that I always conclude these podcast conversations with. I always conclude these episodes with one final question, and we'll get to that final question after this final break. Our guest is Alexis Medina from United Airlines Houston hub, and a conversation with Alexis will continue after the break right here on SpecialChronicles.com.
Hey, friends, podcast listener friends. I'd like to take a brief moment to let you know about how awesome StreamYard is. StreamYard is the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. You see the link right below on the screen here, and also will be in the show notes in the description below. But all of us at Special Chronicles, we love StreamYard. I've got a coffee mug I'm drinking coffee out of. Got a t-shirt on. I've got a sweatshirt. This StreamYard Puddles plush duck. Puddles the duck here in the studio, and just really love it. Makes really love StreamYard. It makes it easy to connect with guests. Just send guests the link to join StreamYard, and easily have a professional logo and banners and graphics, and it just makes it easy to pre-record, to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Really love StreamYard. It's helped to make the audio podcasts and the video versions of the audio podcasts that I've been doing for the past 13 years. It's helped to make the video versions up to the next level, to a more professional level, while also making it easy to live stream. So all of us at Special Chronicles love StreamYard. Once again, if you want to sign up with StreamYard, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard to sign up and get $10 in credit with our referral link. I hope you all will sign up for StreamYard, and happy live streaming. And until then, sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. And now back to the show. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Alexis Medina from United Airlines Houston hub. This is episode 489 of the Special Chronicles show, and season 3, part 6 of our Unified at Work series, which features conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. Before we get to that final question, Alexis, we want to let our listeners know how they can get involved in Special Olympics, as well as how you can book your travel at United. But first, Alexis, I don't know if you want to share how can our listeners get involved in Special Olympics Texas?
Just go to specialolympics.org, Texas.
All right, so that's so for our listeners, if you are watching the live stream video on YouTube or Facebook, you can see on the screen, but we'll also include the link in the show notes on specialchronicles.com or on Apple or iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll include the links in the show notes, but it's SOTX.org. That's SOTX.org. If you want to get involved in Special Olympics Texas, and if you don't live in Texas, if you live in another state in the U.S. or anywhere across the globe, you can find your local Special Olympics program at specialolympics.org. That's specialolympics.org. And we'll include a link in the show notes where you can find your local Special Olympics program to get involved. If you want to book your travel today, again, the Unified at Work series is sponsored by Bridge, which is one of United's business resource groups that is connecting people with all abilities.
It's the Disability Business Resource Group. And you can book your travel today at united.com or on the award-winning United app. I don't know if you would agree, Alexis, but again, we're kind of paid to say that, right? We're kind of paid to tell people to go to united.com or the award-winning United app to book the travel. And because United's Bridge Business Resource Group is sponsoring this Unified at Work podcast series, we are doubly paid to say that. So, again, United.com or the award-winning United app is where you can book your travel today, and we'll include links to United Airlines in the show notes on SpecialChronicles.com or anywhere where you can get your podcasts. Just look for episode 489 or this Unified at Work series, and you can find that. Speaking of the Unified at Work series, if you want to hear more conversations like you heard Alexis today, you can visit specialchronicles.com/unified at work. Again, that's specialchronicles.com/unified at work to hear more conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment. And if you want to meet more of United's Special Olympic Service ambassadors, more of United's SOSAs, like Alexis and myself and the other service ambassadors in Chicago and Denver, and we'll be having on all month of September. We'll be having on more of Alexis's colleagues. You can go to specialchronicles.com/meet SOSAs. That's specialchronicles.com/meet SOSAS. specialchronicles.com/meet SOSAs. And we've got a playlist. You can listen to a playlist on Special Chronicles, or you can listen to a playlist on Spotify and hear all of our SOSA podcasts. And so once people get to meet you, Alexis, on this podcast and meet the other service ambassadors, once they hear you on this podcast, when people go to the United Terminal in Houston, or if they go to the United Terminal in Denver or Chicago, then they can come up to you and already kind of a little bit get to know you, right?
Right.
So it's kind of, this podcast is a good kind of introduction to all stories. Before we let you get back to the rest of your afternoon, do you have any and before we get to that final question, do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles show that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, it was an honor to do the podcast with you, Daniel.
Yeah. It was an honor to have you on this podcast. I always enjoy talking with fellow Special Olympics athletes, and it's always it's always neat to kind of hear from other people's stories. Like, I know that there was some parts of your story that I could relate to, both in Special Olympics, but also at United Airlines. And there's some parts of your story that might be a little bit different. But again, I think that's what people can learn by hearing our stories on this podcast, whether on the Special Chronicles show or this Unified at Work series. And people will kind of hear that we might be a little different, but we're the same, right? And,
right.
And that's where I think some of those walls can be broken down when people hear our stories on this podcast. Before we get to that final question, we've got a bumper that will introduce the final question. So let's go ahead and roll that bumper.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity.
we will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So, Alexis, I'm sure, as you know, and I'm sure if our listeners, if you've been listening for the past few years, you know that inclusion and the inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics. Inclusion is also a big part at United Airlines. It's also a big part here at Special Chronicles. And so I conclude, at least for the past few years, ever since coming back from the Abu Dhabi World Games, I've been concluding with all the guests one final question that talks about inclusion. And so I'll do the same with you. Alexis, what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion means to me is being a part of United Service Ambassador and being able to show the world just because we have disabilities doesn't mean we're different. We're the same person, and we can hold a part-time, full-time job just like the others.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode. Our guest has been Alexis Medina from United Airlines Houston Hub, one of the fellow Special Olympic Service ambassadors at United Airlines. Again, if you want, stay subscribed to this podcast. Again, SpecialChronicles.com. SpecialChronicles.com is where you can go for links to follow Special Chronicles. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Join in the conversation and subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. We'll drop every Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. We will drop a new episode, so make sure to stay subscribed. You can go back in the archives and listen to. We have over 480 plus episodes, almost 500 episodes that you can go back in the archives and listen. And be notified of new episodes that will drop. Again, new episodes drop every Monday on this podcast. And subscribe. You can find wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you get it, or just right on SpecialChronicles.com. You can listen and share these episodes. You can watch the video episodes on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can watch the video episodes on YouTube. Is probably the best place to watch. You can find all those links, and as well as to our Special Chronicles newsletter, where you receive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, I'll find all those links, SpecialChronicles.com. And remember, the Unified at Work series is sponsored by Bridge, United's business resource group. Book your travel today at United.com or the award-winning United app. And for more conversations about the meaning of inclusive employment, SpecialChronicles.com/Unified at Work, SpecialChronicles.com/Unified at Work. And if you want to meet more of the SOSAs, more of United Airlines Special Olympic Service ambassadors like Alexis and myself, SpecialChronicles.com/Meet SOSAs, SpecialChronicles.com/Meet SOSAs to listen to a playlist, a collection of all these SOSA conversations. And we'll put all those links to how you can get involved in Special Olympics and book your travel at United in the show notes. Just look for episode 489, season 3, part 6 of our Unified at Work series. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you again for coming on the Special Chronicles show. And hopefully we'll get to meet up again in person.
Well, thank you for having me, Daniel.
Well, and have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week right here as we continue all month, all September. We will be continuing the final episodes of season 3 of our Unified at Work series. We'll be dropping every Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time right here on the Special Chronicles show in our Unified at Work series. We'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit SpecialChronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.